Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see here on our channel, our website, or our social media. Reach out to me directly. It's in the description, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing my favorite FP Journe watch in one of its most handsome configurations. In red gold, 42 millimeters, this is the FP Journe Chronometre Optimum Boutique Edition, available with this black dial and red gold combination exclusively through FP Journe boutiques. It is an exclusive version of an already rare watch, as it is quite cerebral. A beautiful watch, nevertheless, it's also a wearable watch, 9.8 millimeters thick, 51.7 millimeters lug-to-lug, and 20 millimeters between the lugs. It's broad and it's flat, and the irony there is, as thin as it is, FP Journe once complained that his Chronometre Optimum escapement is too thick to be built into all of his watches. But frankly, at under 10 millimeters thick, this one will slide easily underneath the cuff. Here's your overhead shot. Here's your down the barrel shot, and in 42 millimeters, I would recommend it for a wrist to small. I would say about 14.5 centimeters circumference. It is a big watch, there's no question about that. The strap that's included is of high quality, as you can see. It is an FP Journe factory strap, round scale gator on the bottom, large rectangular scale gator on the top. It's a sort of rusty red with a monotone stitch and a folded edge. Gator on both sides means it's more durable. And then you can see on the underside, the pull tab spring bars FP Journe uses, so you can easily remove the strap just by pulling the tab with your nail. You'll also note the use of curved spring bars so that the case can be drilled closer. You can see where the pivot point of the strap is, and so there's no impediment to the motion of the strap. There's a simple, no-nonsense, easily adjusted pin buckle and matching red gold, and Journe builds his cases, his dials, as well as his movements. He builds that pin buckle himself. Everything's of high polish. You have a domed bezel, you have an overlapping lip to the case back in the bezel. That actually forms a boundary to define the mid-case, and the lugs are integrated in Calatrava style. You have the characteristic Journe double dimple knurled crown rolling over to the dial. You can see that it is black, and it features a lovely rose gold gilt style printing. There's a power reserve indicator down at what would conventionally be about let's call it 630 on the dial, and you can see that the watch has a backwards power reserve indicator that indicates 0 when fully wound. That's in tribute to the vintage marine chronometers or deck clocks built by FP Journe's horological heroes. Those clocks would always be wound 24 hours apart, and 24 hours after each winding, you would wind it again, so it would have the same flow of power and discharge every day through 24-hour cycles, which is why this watch reads 0 hours when fully wound, because it has been 0 hours since its last full winding. You have the hours, minutes, and seconds, and note that the seconds come in a sweep second form, but because of the remontoir d'égalité constant force system, you also have a deadbeat seconds on the reverse side. Now that will deactivate after 45 hours, and it'll go into sweep seconds mode to keep the watch running, because for the first 45 hours, the remontoir acts as a buffer between the twin mainspring barrels and the escapement, so that the barrels never drive the escapement directly. They can't overcharge it when fully wound, and they can't under-energize it when they begin to discharge. The remontoir ensures that each second, the same amount of energy goes to the balance, so for 45 hours from its last full winding, it will maintain constant balance amplitude. Twin barrels with an absolute power reserve of 70 hours before it grinds to a stop. It is one of the longer-legged FP Journe manual wind movements. You can see it's entirely in red gold. This is the caliber 1510, which means it's 15 French lean in size, and the 10 is the year design work started on this 44 jewel movement. Everything's in red gold, with the exception of a few pieces that are either satin finished or polished, and those parts are steel with the satin finish or the polish. You'll appreciate that there's also a double direct impulse escapement system that operates unlubricated. 2 wheels, no Swiss lever, that's excluded. Each wheel directly impulses the balance in one direction of travel, back or forth. There's also a handmade overcoil hairspring to ensure that the balance will beat concentrically, or I should say the hairspring will breathe concentrically, and the balance will neither speed up nor slow down, because the hairspring centers the mass of the spring as close as possible to the center of the balance staff itself. It's also a free-sprung architecture, and that black polished steel stud holder actually caps the hairspring. It's adjusted in 6 positions, which is one more than the chronometer standard of 5. It is free-sprung and beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and it's 30 meters water resistant, which is to say It is an impressive watch that could be considered sporty for a precious metal dress watch, but it is not an aquatic watch. But then again, you have an elegant 48 for that. This is my favorite FP Journe. I love it. It's cerebral. It's a technical watch. It's an engineer's watch. It's not necessarily the watch that is more emotional than any other in the FP Journe catalog, but this is a watch that appeals to the intellect, being both beautiful and technologically superb. It's the total package. And in 42 millimeters with the boutique edition dial and case, this might be the best version of all. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.